Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and today we are going to talk about foot movements in weight swinging. There have been questions about why I tend to do the footwork the way I do it. I tend to point my feet straight ahead, and I don't move my feet when I'm doing a lot of these activities. And there is a very specific reason for that. What we are doing is we are using our heavy clubs and our kettlebells more for basic strength training right now on this channel. We are filling in what we call general physical preparedness. General physical preparedness is we want to work on our basic movement patterns, and we want to jack the weight up to a reasonable level so that we can be very good at fundamental movements. When we're doing our heavy club swinging, we don't move our feet because we are trying to make the clubs heavier so we can get better at our rotations and make our rotations very equal. If you start moving your feet during weight swinging activities, you're going to have to use lighter weights, which is totally fine, but that is more sport specific or activity specific adaptations of the exercise. The way that I tend to teach stuff for 2 years of nerd math is inside circles without moving the feet. And then we will teach outside circles without moving the feet. And we do this for the very specific reason that people tend to rotate one way very well. They tend to rotate with their dominant hand inside very, very well. And this other side, their weak side, tends not to rotate very well at all. If we start moving the feet before we have balanced the rotations, then we tend to build in a bit of a weak spot somewhere in the movement pattern. An inside circle with foot movement is totally valid exercise, and it would look something like this, where you would step, do the circle, and step. Totally fine, totally valid. And we do use foot movement exercises later on in training when we start to move it more towards activity or sport-specific preparedness. But in the beginning, we keep our feet solid because we want to take and jack that weight up until we can do it with, say, a 35. Can you move your feet with a 35-pound club? Yes. If you can do a 35-pound club with your feet very stable already. Let's show you that. When we start moving our feet, we start integrating essentially a weird kind of lower version of agility training inside the movement. Most people are not ready for that. Most people, if they have flat feet, if one foot turns out, if they've got a bad knee, if they have a bad bicep on one side, we want to reduce the number of variables of the things we change. We want people to get really good at the basics, and we want to bring the weight up to a reasonable weight. I consider a 35-pound club single hand to be a reasonable weight for men to achieve. Most people won't get there, especially if they start trying to move their feet. They will do something wrong, place their foot wrong, and then they will overuse something or tweak something up. So we're trying to minimize injury by minimizing our foot movement in the beginning so that we learn to move everything else. We need to learn to move our knees, our hips, our spine, and our shoulder to accomplish the task. And if we start moving our feet too soon in training, then we will skip over some type of movement somewhere in the line. There are so many variables going on. We always try to change one variable at a time. So in the beginning, feet stable, pick a weight, go through a program, pick a heavier weight, go through a program, pick a heavier weight, go through a program. If you were to just get to single arm 25 without moving your feet, then that's an absolutely fantastic thing to achieve. You will be much stronger. You will rotate way better. Your shoulder will be way stronger. And then you can drop down 2 weights back to the 15, and you can start doing moving and walking drills as you then work through the movements. Same thing is true of kettlebells. In the beginning, we want you to set up and build a strong foundation without moving your feet. And then we'd go to compromised foot position, like a runner's swing, where we have both feet pointed straight ahead, but we have our feet in a stagger stance. We retrain it. And then after that, we can start going in and introducing foot movements back and forth. But that is a progression that takes time. You should not skip straight to the end and go straight to foot movements. There are some schools that do that, and they start with extremely light weights, and that's totally fine. But I'm trying to get a very specific effect with people. I'm trying to get them to get strong at the absolute basics first, and then I tend to work with actors and movie people, and then we integrate all that foot movement stuff is specific to whatever fight scene or action scene they're doing. So then we would then build the foot movement specifically based on what the choreography would be. And if you were to change this to say baseball or football, there would be slightly different throwing patterns or whatever you were trying to accomplish based on the sport. Tennis would be slightly different than, say, baseball or football. And you would then modify your stepping and foot positions based on the sport activity. There are generic versions of foot movement that work very well. The crossbody swing to load to crossbody stabilization, all those things are super cool and valid. And we will do a long series of videos in the future where we will break down specifically, say, throwing pattern for baseball into like 20 videos and do it step by step.